Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Live Into Your Best Life. I'm Paulie Skaja, your show's host, and today I'm with Howard Freedman. I met Howard. He actually reached out and shared that they enjoyed some of the shows I'd done and really found a fit in regards to helping people get from where they are to where they want to be from the college financial aid realm. And having a lot of kids, being a believer in continuous education, and knowing how challenging it is for students to be able to consider their next step of education, I was excited to have Howard on the show. And so I'm going to introduce him, and then we're just going to hop into a little quick conversation here. So, Howard Friedman's professional experiences are the right fit for creating a successful financial aid consulting firm. For more than 20 years, he has consistently made his clients feel confident by helping them pursue the most affordable college. One of his favorite quotes is, "Our greatest weaknesses lies in giving up. The most certain way to success is always to try once more." Thomas Edison. Howard's leadership and achievements in financial management, customer service, software consulting, process improvement, negotiations, and analytical skills have saved organizations millions of dollars. It was only natural for him to reinvent himself in pursuit of a more fulfilling career as a financial aid consultant, intending to give back to society positively. Several years after founding Financial Aid Consulting, he was recruited to serve as the manager of the Access Program at Boston Public Schools. This opportunity broadened his horizons by providing financial aid services and scholarships to a diverse group of over 2,700 high school students across more than 20 high schools. Consequently, he received a citation from the Massachusetts House of Representatives. He later returned to financial aid consulting. He graduated from the College Board's Financial Aid Institute and completed ongoing training with experts from college financial aid and admissions departments. This helped him better understand how these organizations are taught and how they operate. He's a member of the Massachusetts School Counselors Association and the Massachusetts Association of School Financial Aid Administrators, where he met and networked with college representatives and guidance counselors to understand different perspectives about higher education and student support. Howard took on leadership roles in professional organizations while becoming a public speaker and author for national publications on general topics and college issues. A large collection of his articles are available on his website. So we'll have his links available in the show notes so that you'll be able to go out and check out more of Howard's work. He's also a highly regarded author of 3 editions of his book, Making College Happen. Those are available on Amazon, and we'll have a link to that as well. Howard was named Man of the Year by the American Payroll Association and received a citation from the Senate, Massachusetts State Senate. Later, he was honored with the Whatever It Takes Award from his former employer, InPower, a software developer, for his outstanding customer service. Howard obtained his Bachelor of Science in Business Management from Northeastern University and his Master's of Business Administration from Suffolk University in Boston. You've done a lot, mister. That's pretty
Thank you.
cool. You've made a big impact in the lives of many. And one of the things that I love about your background is that you've gotten to work with the kids. You've worked with the school systems. You've talked to the counselors to understand the real world. And you help people to bridge the gap and to find ways that they can continue on. That's just fantastic. What got you into this? Like, I get what you said, but where's the passion? What got you into it?
I think I've always had a passion for helping people. That's what I learned when I worked in business industry, customer service. Um, and I did that for many, many years until I got to the point that it wasn't a challenge to me anymore. Because
Mm-hmm.
I knew it so well. I got awards and recognition, and consequently, an opportunity came up. Somebody offered me an opportunity to help them fill out FAFSA forms. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason he did it was twofold. First, he had more clients than he could handle. And the second was he was in the insurance business. So his hope was as I worked on the forms, I would recommend them buy insurance products from him, which I have problems with that. I really have problems with doing that if I didn't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So as I got referrals and as my business grew, I felt that I needed to give people value for their money. And I took a look at all the things that you described about my background, and it's always a process of reinventing yourself. It used to be when my dad, was living and working. It was a sense of loyalty. Like you be loyal to a job for 25, 30 years, you'll retire, you'll get a watch, you'll get a nice attaboy or attagirl. But that's not what it's about. If you get really too good at something and it's not a challenge to you anymore, then you have to kind of look and say, well, what can I do? So you just kind of look at your core competencies,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily where you work, but what are my core competencies? Well, um, you know, uh, customer service, auditing, looking at detail,
Mm-hmm.
consulting, working under deadlines, problem solving, um, and the list go process improvements. So if you think all those things are core competencies, not necessarily the jobs, but from every job and every opportunity, you develop skills. And then when you think you're really good at it, then you have to move on. So I think I kind of put everything together and I said, I've helped so many adults. I mean, in my life, paid hundreds of thousands and millions of people, got checks out every week, but I really didn't see them. I just kind of delivered a product. I heard from them when the product wasn't delivered. They didn't get a check. But I think it was a good time to kind of step back and say, let me do something that's worthwhile. No, it's not going to pay as much as working for a company, but it's much more fulfilling. It's fulfilling. And I've been blessed by having families from different economic means. Um, some had a lot of money, some didn't. And I always push, as I do today in my articles and everything, that um, there's a college for everybody. There is a college. There's over 5,000 colleges. And it's a matter of really deciding at what level you're capable of doing and affording. And
Mm-hmm.
that makes it much more challenging than just filling out a form because a form is just, it is a little bit boring. I don't do my taxes. I pay somebody to do my taxes. I don't like filling out forms, but I do. But when I do, I also look at the information. I'm not just a robot filling in the forms. I look at the information. I analyze people's situation. That's where the analytical skills come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I try to look for a way of brainstorming and teaching people what they should look for, how should they do it, how should they finance it, and to be honest with one another. And that's where communications comes in for the student and the parent to be able to get to a point where they can converse and be honest and basically develop a playing field that will
Mm-hmm.
lead to success.
So when should people start considering all of the things?
I think before birth, I think before, I think before. kids are born, when they're thinking of having kids, they have a choice. They can get a pet that doesn't go to college. They could buy goldfish, okay, or they could have a family. So I think to answer the question, you always want to think about it. I mean, the earlier you think about it, the better. Um, it doesn't seem so imminent when a child is, young and there's other things to deal with, and families are young and they just want to focus on building themselves up, developing status, being successful in their work. But uh, I'd say realistically, I look at this as a marketing opportunity. I'm saying that probably no earlier or than the freshman year in high school. It's a way to really think about how can I market my child or children so
Mhm.
colleges will really want them. They'll really want them. And, when does that have to happen? Well, maybe the child needs to get involved with sports or um, different organizations. Maybe they need to take AP or advanced courses. Maybe they need to seek internships. Maybe they need to get good summer jobs. In the meantime, it's a matter of saving. Now, saving isn't easy today. It just isn't easy. But whatever you can put away will help. I think also you have to kind of look at a move ahead in the freshman year and see what colleges are looking for, how much do they cost, what kind of data do they want, what kind of students do they want? Because then you have to find a match that you find a college that wants the type of student. A good example might be a woman, a female engineering student.
Mhm.
Let's say, engineering is, aimed at males and there aren't any females in the class. So they want to get more female engineers. So they may go out to recruiting. They may offer great scholarships, and that's called um, uh, enrollment management. So they're out shopping for the best student that fills their needs. And then the student and their family, in turn, want to find a college that's generous, one that fits the skills, the vocations, and everything, which may not be known at the time. And when we talk about college, I always throw in the fact that not all children want to go to college. They may want to go to trade school. They may want to go to community college. They may want to take online courses. They may want to go into the military. So that's where candid conversation is really important. It's sometimes hard for a young person to be able to communicate how they really feel with parents who may put more focus on their pocketbook or wallet than to really allow the child to find true happiness and success.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so couple of chunks I want to dive into here. One of them, you talked about it as it's a marketing opportunity where you're marketing the student. And so making sure that they've got a well-rounded portfolio. And I know a lot of people don't think about it that way. They don't consider being involved in the volunteer activities in your community, leading clubs, being involved in clubs, your grades matter, the job, all of that stuff matters. Now, who does that matter to?
It matters to, I would start with the person. It matters in terms of developing self-esteem,
Mm,
leadership, power to get out of their comfort zone. I think it's important to stretch yourself and to see what you can do and where you can succeed. So as you do that and you do your research, because there's so much information out there, and you look at maybe careers, you say, what are they looking for? And what do I have? And does the school I go to offer those opportunities? Do they offer those opportunities that I can take advanced courses or AP courses? Um, but what is that? It's like a piece of clay. You have a piece of clay, and then you have to model it into something and mold it. And there's a lot of pressure out there, but also there's a lot of changes. So you have to kind of look at the future and say, you know, the jobs that are really relevant now may not be relevant going forward. So, you look at AI, you look at, there's a list I printed the other day, like the top jobs that there'll always be a demand for.
Mm.
And you look at that, and if you like to crunch the numbers, you say, hey, this is a pretty good opportunity uh, to go to, but I have to make myself in a position that um, I can make the school look good. Because the school, in turn, wants to educate as many students as they can. They want to make sure that retention is high. They want to make sure that they have, wealthy alumni that will support it. So they're looking for, I hate to say a product, but they want somebody that will fill the roles to really add to the prestige, get on those lists of the best schools to go to. And uh, during that time, I think it's also important for young people to learn speaking and communication skills, to be able to talk to people like you and I are talking today. To be able to interview and talk with people and find out about their work
Yeah.
and see what they think about it, what they would recommend. So I think that whole process uh, can be beneficial to a lot of people, even the people you network with, to say, well,
Hmm.
I didn't realize Howard had an interest in biology. We can use somebody during the summer to work in our biology department. So as you become marketable, you want to become known
Hmm.
to other people and express yourself. You're not going to be successful by just studying and taking tests.
Right.
It's it it may give you a good grade point average, but you're successful in applying what you know, and applying your brainstorming skills and your uh, teamwork skills and all that to make yourself a very marketable person that's ready to step into the workforce and fit into whatever need that particular organization needs.
So you just explained something that resonated for me. So I'm gonna repeat it in Paulie words. You
Okay.
you said that the institutes, the colleges, are looking for people they can provide a service to. And in turn, that service is going to produce a product
Mhm.
that will
Mhm.
go out into the world
Mhm.
and improve themselves so that they can
Mhm.
give back to the institute that created this opportunity for them.
Right.
And so
Mhm.
it's just a cycle, keeps giving forward, pay it forward type of thing.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, and there's a lot of statistics. I mean, you can go online, but two of the ones I look for, one is the number of students that are accepted,
Mhm.
acceptance rate, and then the retention rate.
Mm.
So if you go to, and I warn parents, if you go to a school that has a very high acceptance rate and a low retention rate, you're kind of wasting your money. You might as well go to a community college or something because the value of that diploma doesn't mean much because the school anybody can get into.
Mhm.
So when you get to that point and say, look, I can get into XYZ, or sometimes there's situations where they have technical schools and stuff and they're giving me a scholarship. Um, you got to say, is it really worth it? Maybe I should go to a state college. Maybe I need to take some time off, go into the military or the military pay.
Mhm.
Maybe I'll work maybe I'll work and then go to school and try it out. So you, there's maybe, and I've actually just wrote an article about the people going to college, and I said socioeconomically. So you have the people that are very wealthy and they don't have to worry about money. You know, they may be looking for prestige and getting into the top schools. They may be a legacy and all that, but they can't force a student to do what they did. Maybe they don't want to go to that school. Um, but again, those people have a lot of choices because money isn't the problem. You get into the middle class, which comprises most of the people that we're talking about, that those are the ones that need merit and need-based aid. Um,
Mhm.
they may find the best schools out there, but they can't afford them, even with aid. So they have to be more creative, spread kind of their field and look for different schools at all levels, levels in which, schools may be very generous. Um, there could be schools, for example, a private school may be less than a public school if they give out more aid. So
Mhm.
these are the people I think that are really most challenged. And then you have those people that are at the low income levels. And the government actually gives them, as they give all students that apply for aid through the FAFSA, they're going to be qualified for grants. They're going to be qualified for possibly more Stafford loans
Mhm.
and different opportunities, maybe lesser ones. But again, as I said, there's over 5,000 colleges. They're going to find something to go to school. So don't tell me you can't get into college or go into college because the student has a lot of choices. And so doesn't the parents in terms of setting limits. Um, Yeah, I think a person can start off at a community college and work their way up. There's a lot of people you read about and see on TV every day that don't come from a lot of money and are tremendously successful. Why? Because they worked hard at it. They were intelligent. They were committed. They had a situation, maybe a bad situation in their life that they want to make good on, or maybe some idea, some really great idea. They want to find uh, an outlet to share it and develop it again to make this a better world.
Mhm. And they took action, right? Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so it's interesting because you have described two of my kids.
Mhm.
One of them, we followed the path where we built her portfolio, and we actually started this in about seventh, eighth grade. She was
Mhm.
very active, and both of my children were very active in the community and went to all these volunteer activities with me and ran projects and all these things. So we started building the portfolio, and she did exactly what you're talking about. She had the job. She was leading some clubs in school. She was a 4.0 student, well, above a 4.0 GPA. And then, just like the package, right? And when it came time, we interviewed different schools
Mhm.
to see where did she want to apply. She decided where she wanted to go. It was a private school.
Mhm.
My kids knew that I wasn't paying for their education. I had set aside some money that
Mhm.
I would pay on a monthly basis towards, but I wanted them to have skin in the game so that it wasn't just me footing the bill type of thing. So, anyways, she walked into this one school and she says, Mom, it feels like home. This is where I'm going. So, right
Mhm.
there. Then we went through the informational interview. And
Mhm.
before we left, they asked her if she would be an ambassador for them.
Mhm.
And like you mentioned, because the school wanted her, she was such a great fit for what they represent. They actually gave her significant funding every year
Mhm.
to help her with that education. And then she applied for a lot of grants and scholarships from like the nonprofit organizations and things like that that people forget about.
Right.
And she actually won a lot of her educational support, which was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
My son took a different route.
Mm-hmm.
Both of my children knew they had to go to higher education, didn't care where, just knew that find something you want to do. My daughter went to school for HR, business with an HR emphasis and a psych minor, and she
Mm-hmm.
has used it in every job.
Wow.
My son started going to school for IT, for
Mm-hmm.
engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, this isn't what I want. So he switched
Mm-hmm.
majors and he went into art, digital art,
Mm-hmm.
and graphic design. And then he switched again. And then he's like, Mom, this just isn't what I want to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so we stepped back and he realized, oh, but my student loans are going to start coming due in 6 months. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
got to do something to stop that because I'm not in a financial situation to take care of that. And he hadn't
Mm-hmm.
realized it until the moment came. And I told him, what do you love? Just what do you love?
Mm-hmm.
I love philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
we started looking into schools, and he actually found a local school
Mm-hmm.
that allowed him to have a full-time job,
Mm-hmm.
go to school pockets during the day or at night. His job allowed, scheduled around it. And he was struggling with classes that he felt he had to take. But when
Mm-hmm.
he found what he was passionate about, he was a 4.0 student as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just so much passion. And people would ask him, what are you going to use? All you can do is be an educator. No, philosophy is used in everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps him with those skills. And then since then, he found a consulting firm that hired him, trained him on how to be a consultant, and then
Mm-hmm.
placed him in a job. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that was because he had that 4 year degree, they
Mm-hmm.
knew he was trainable and
Yeah,
then
sure.
went from there, and so it's kind of fun to have two kids that represent what you were just talking about.
Mhm. I think that scenario plays out a lot. I think one of the things I'd like to mention is um, I went to a commencement and the speaker talked about what is the difference between what you have a purpose for. He said, when you graduate, you shouldn't have a a passion for anything. You should have a purpose. What is your purpose in life? Why are you here? What are you going to do? And pursue that and always pursue the purpose. Uh, both your children, very interesting, are both successful, even though they took different paths.
That's right.
So and I think your family were very open-minded to say, if this makes you happy, you find your own success. You find it, and that's something you can do. And I think um, when I grew up a long time ago, my mother, I loved her dearly. She was very authoritarian. She thought back then, if you went to college, you were brilliant and you would be an instant success.
Mm,
And that wasn't necessarily true. Um, I was a success, but I had to work at it. So uh, I think it's good. I think you've taken the right approach by understanding what they had to say and then opening those lines of communication to really let them pursue their purpose in life by doing things that made them happy. I've had jobs that I didn't look forward to going to in the morning. I just
mm,
didn't. And I think students today need to know the difference between getting a job and a career. A
yes.
job is just some place that you find that you're getting paid for and working for an organization, and you go back and forth every day. But it should be, especially if you're a college student, be a stepping stone to learn and again, I say this to everybody, keep your own portfolio of your accomplishments. Just keep them because you never know when you're going to need them. Um, and learn as much as you can. Learn. If you don't know, ask questions. If somebody asks you a question, don't pussyfoot around, so to speak, and but say, I will find out. There's a good scenario that I've learned a long time ago, and it's called the elevator speech.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's kind of something that young people need to understand. And it went something like this, may not be exact, but the purpose of telling the story, I think, should be taken very seriously. That this fictitiously, there were two people in this elevator in the first floor. And this young person was a young person and a established executive. And they're on the bottom floor of the building, and the executive says, "Oh, why are you here?" And she said, "Well, I'm going for an interview. I'm going for an interview." "Oh, tell me something about yourself." And she goes on and on and on and said, "Gee, I was in XYZ college. I got a degree as in the cheerleading team. I led the you know, debating team. I got a straight 4.0. I, was an ambassador or whatever for the school. I did all this stuff." And by saying that and that whole made up scenario, there was nothing where she said where she could bring value to an organization. It was about her, all these accomplished, all the things I did. And learning that, I learned something else that when you do a resume, ask yourself, so what? You did this, so what? So the executive got to the top floor, took the resume and threw in the wastepaper basket because he had or she had no interest on somebody that was so wrapped up in themselves and couldn't say what kind of value they could offer to the organization. So I think people, two of the most powerful words are I and we.
Mhm.
I means, I did this, I did that, da, 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 da. You very professionally read about my background that I think, I enjoyed hearing it. I enjoyed knowing that this was my background. But most of that's in the past. What's important is the here and now and what we're talking about and, overcoming challenges, believing in yourself.
Mhm.
Self-belief is really important. Even if uh, my friend would make this joke, he said, what do you call a doctor who finished last in medical school? And he'd say, a doctor. You know, that's it.
Mhm.
It doesn't
Yep.
make any difference. The difference is how adaptable are you and what um, skills do you have to add value, to have real value to any place you go?
Yeah.
So I think, and the other two words that I put in my book is yes and no. So I try to be creative and I said, what should yes be? And I said, yes means you expect success. So I made that yes means you expect success. No means is new opportunities. So if you look at those two words and say there's always opportunities, always, there's tons of opportunities. Maybe some of the positions or jobs that you may get may be demeaning, but it's an experience. It's something you put in your resume. Maybe it'll tell you, I don't want to do this type of job. I don't want to clean toilets or, you know, uh, work as a cashier all my life, but I get to meet all these people I meet. And maybe I'll find an interesting person that may share with me some advice or wisdom that I didn't know.
Mhm.
But I don't think any job should be below anybody. I think they should just take it as a means of learning and building and developing social skills that are really important. Are going to come into play after you graduate and probably during college too.
Definitely, definitely. Um, when someone's looking at, okay, so let's just say someone's a freshman in high school.
Mhm.
How would you work with people to help them figure out this whole college funding experience? Take me through
Well,
the process.
okay, well, one thing is when I meet with people, I meet with both the student and the parent.
Mhm.
Okay. And I can't kind of have to keep them on course. So if John will say, or Mary says that they want to go to college, and the parents sitting there and say, Mary, I told you, we don't have, ain't got too much money here. We just don't have the money. You know, Dad and I can't afford it. We can't pay the rent. We can't do anything. You have to go to XYZ community college. And Dad said, well, I agree with Mom because I have to agree with Mom because she's making me agree with her. I gotta agree. You are going to go to community college. And the student kind of slides back in their seat and say, I don't want to go to this college. I want to be a nurse. But my parents, all they're looking at is how much this is going to cost. And you have to kind of get to a neutral point and say, regardless of the cost, what areas of interest do you enjoy? Do you enjoy math? Do you enjoy science? Do you enjoy literature? And a lot of times it's will say, I don't know. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. My friend's taking communications, you know, and that's what I want to do. Do you know anything about communications? No. Um, I know it's a good job and it's an easy major. I can go to the school and I can play fun. We can have fun on the weekends and have a great, great golf course. Man, this is like an Arnold Palmer golf course. I don't really care that much about the school. I want to play golf and I want to date and I just want to have a good time. And the parents slump down further and I say, why are we here? What are you going to do? And then I listen and being a consultant, I can't say that's stupid. Everything you said is stupid, which it was stupid. But I think it's a matter of just giving them a roadmap and saying, okay, here's the things you need to do. I would suggest considering first career and career opportunities. There's a lot of things out there and see what might interest you. I think, maybe you should be tested. Maybe it's worthwhile to take a test, an aptitude test, to see how, where your aptitudes may be. Uh, let's talk about languages. What kind of languages would you want to take? Um, and you kind of talk about all these things. And then if you get to the guidance counselor, I would say talk to the recent graduates to see what they did, find out what they did and how they got there, or what they would say don't do. I look at, I don't tell the student which college to go to, but I will tell them that what the things to look at. There's certainly data, a lot of data,
Mhm.
uh, some of which I mentioned earlier. I think you have to um, also find out how good your school is. And I don't mean that in a snobby way, but um, colleges also consider, how good a school is. So if you're in an area and this is like really a bad school that one student kills two students every 3 days, I don't think I'd want to be there, or
Oh,
God forbid that ever should happen. But some schools have a little bit more um, recognition. So, it could be worth it to consider private school um, if you can afford it or if you can get a scholarship.
mhm.
And so you have to kind of work at it and have a path. I went to school. When I went to school, there were like three or four programs. One was a college prep, which I was in, the general, and back then, um, people, mostly females, went there to be either a teacher or a secretary. Those were the choices.
Yep.
And then there was a shop program. The kids that came to school with greasy pants, greasy hair, everything was greasy. And they're making more money than anybody
That's right.
that we're
Yep.
talking about, like, gee, that guy was just, he's rich now. He has two houses. And I made fun of him. I went to college and I don't make half of what he made. So you got to kind of look at it and say, um, be open-minded. Don't be afraid of doing something that might be bold. I mean, let's face it, every child is different. You talked
Mhm.
about your daughter, very focused, very good, very, intelligent. She had a focus. She wanted to know where she wanted to go. My daughter was the same way. She wanted to go to University of Virginia. She got in. She did very well. My son
Mhm.
is a little bit different. But I think um, you have to give them time to discover. You
That's right.
can't treat them as they know less than you. You have to listen. You have to be an empathetic listener. And then the other very, very important thing is money. Okay, we talk about money. I like people to go to different colleges. They have net price calculators. Crunch the numbers, and see how much is the net cost of this college, because that's what you have to work for. I tell many parents to just work together and decide how much you really can afford. And sometimes I'll just say, hey, look, say the most we can afford is $15,000. That's the most. And tell the student that's the most we can afford. We would love to help you. We really, but dad's getting older and he's, thinking retirement. We have two other children we have to deal with. Job market, is very shaky now. But give them a number, say, okay, 15,000, then it's a student's responsibility, student, to find a college less $15,000, because that's the amount, unless a Stafford loan, that's the amount of debt that will be incurred, and that's
Mhm.
the amount that they will have to pay. So both parent and student have money in the game, so to speak,
Mhm.
but there's no disappointment, if maybe a good example, let's say the student goes to the guidance counselor and says, Howard, you're really a smart guy, and I think you should apply to Yale. And okay, and I applied to Yale, and I get in. I'm really happy. I come home, and guess what, parents? Guess what? Why I got into Yale? And they have this long drawn face, and they said, "We're really happy for you, but there's no way we can." And Yale's I just picked a school out of
Yeah.
here. There's no way for us to pay. You're going to have to go to community college, and the student is all dejected. So don't wait until the senior year when you apply
Yeah.
to get something. And that's a matter of everybody being on the same page. And I think also a big part of it too is accountability.
Mhm.
When a student goes to school, they should be accountable to their parents. They should see their report cards. They should know if there's a problem. When I went to school, the first semester, I got an F in geometry. F, because I did not bother to learn the postulates and the theorems.
Mhm.
My mother got me a tutor, got me on track, and I got all A's after that. But if I didn't share that with her, I would have failed.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay if you don't do well in a course. It's okay, but you have to find a way to get better. And, parents should demand, and same thing with college. I mean, I could tell, and I do in my book, that uh, parents lay out a lot of money for college. And if the student isn't accountable to them and they fail, um, they're going to be out a lot of money. So, uh,
Mhm.
even though they may balk at it and say, well, you don't trust me. Look, it's my money. you're, that I'm paying for this. I have a right to know how well you're doing. And I'm okay if you want to change majors or change courses, um, but I don't want to see you fail. What can I do to make you help succeed? What can I do? But you're not going to fail. You're not going to fail.
Yep. Very cool. So I rub my journey resembles a lot of what you're talking about.
Mhm,
I came from a lower economic family,
mhm,
and I knew I was going to Votech. There was no other option.
mhm,
And I knew I was paying for it. But mom and
mhm,
dad wanted to make sure that I was educated.
mhm,
And what do you want to do? No idea.
mhm,
So I decided I was going to go to school where my best friend was going to school,
mhm,
an hour and a half from home. So
mhm,
get to start over, living on my own, right? Going home every now and then. And the, I looked at the list of classes at that school
mhm,
and I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, why don't you become an accountant?
mhm,
You're good with numbers. Oh,
mhm,
okay. Well, I could do that. So I applied for the accounting program because I had no idea, but I'm good with
mhm,
numbers.
mhm,
2 weeks before school starts, I get a letter saying of course I'd been accepted into school, but the program was canceled because
mhm,
they didn't have enough students registered.
mhm,
So what other class would I like to take? I'm like, I have no idea. Business. I'll just go into business. So
mhm.
sales, marketing, and management was the program
Uh-huh.
because what else am I going to do? I'm going to, whatever. And it gave me a really strong business foundation,
Mhm,
amazing experiences.
mhm,
It was relatively economical. Because of our situation, I qualified for a lot of grants and scholarships, a lot of free
mhm,
money. Still
mhm,
had some student loans, but
mhm,
not as much as they do nowadays, right?
mhm. Right.
And got my 2 year,
Mhm,
and then did retail management and all the things, fell into these different jobs that I had. And I decided in my late 20s, I wanted to get my 4 year degree.
mhm,
So all my credits that transferred, and I decided to go to a community college to
mhm,
get my 2 year degree
mhm,
and then go from there. Over the course of time, I'd taken so many classes. I probably could have a master's, except that
mhm,
I didn't
mhm,
take them all from the same school. So, whatever. I finally, in 2020, graduated from Bethel University with my degree in organizational leadership.
Oh, wow.
And the really cool thing is when I started that program, I had, all the credits, and then I focused
Mhm,
on that major.
mhm.
I was a 4.0 student.
Wow.
So 4.0 in college isn't necessarily common, and especially being a working person and all,
Mhm,
family person and all the things, but I loved it so much. And
sure.
many of my books are actually books from when I went to school there because they're
Mhm,
still relevant today.
mhm.
And
That's
I share
wonderful.
that because my journey changed. What I do for a living today
Mhm,
didn't exist when I was looking at schools back when I graduated from high school.
mhm,
And last May, I released the podcast. It was an interview with my mom
mhm,
where we talked about every job she ever held was replaced by automation,
mhm,
and every job I've ever held beyond retail never existed
mhm,
before. And then I was kind of pioneering in these different areas. And I think because I continued my educational journey, as
mhm,
disjointed as it was, it gave me that background. Like you were talking about all those skills, your analytical, your negotiation, your all the things you've done. It just, you can't take education away from anyone.
no.
It doesn't matter if you pivot and go in another direction.
Mhm,
Turn it into something you're passionate about, and then
mhm.
keep evolving so that you don't become obsolete.
I think education, um, and learning are two different things. I think learning is ongoing. And
Yeah.
when I went to college, I went to Northeastern University and I was a co-op student. And that's kind of what it is to get out and learn every day of our lives, we continue learning
Mhm.
things we didn't know before. Education is a stepping stone. It's a stepping stone to uh, kind of put on the essential parts of a of something
Mhm.
to kind of get it all together. And I think what you have to do, and I think with education, um, that has changed also in terms of um, when I went to college, the professor would say, first day, look to the left of you, look to the right of you, because these students will be gone because we flunk out students that aren't good. And I'm looking and say, oh, I'm so scared. I am so scared because I may flunk out. I didn't flunk out. I may flunk out.
Mhm.
And that has evolved into, no, we want to retain as many students as possible. That's what we
Mhm.
want to do because if we you know, lose students, it's not going to make us look good. And
Mhm.
then I think within colleges, and I found this out in grad school, that grades really don't make a huge difference. They do and they don't. I think teamwork and problem solving
Yeah.
mean much more than getting an A in a course. I took a course, it was called Labor Economics. I'll never forget it. And the guy's name was Irwin. There's a little guy, kind of not about to reach the podium. And he would read all these little one-liners about labor economics. It's just so boring. And so he gave a test at the end of the semester. It was 1 hour test with 200 questions. And you just got to the point, you were just checking off answers. And anyhow, I got a D in the program. And that semester, I got all A's in every subject and I got a D. So I was devastated. So I arranged to talk to him. I wrote him, I typed him a 2 page letter. He typed me back a 3 page letter. And I said to him, no disrespect, but I didn't learn anything in class. It was just a matter of memorizing things. I
Mhm.
just didn't. And I think I like classes where, like in business, we do a lot of case studies, like
Mhm.
Harvard Business School case studies. And I always did well on them because it gave me a chance to be creative. It made me feel like, hey, I'm the president of the company, or I could do this. And then in grad school, we did a lot of programs. They were teamwork programs.
Mhm.
You're talking about marketing. I'll put in a quick vignette. We had to present different cases of companies that had succeeded or failed. So I got legs pantyhose. That was the one that I got, legs
The
pantyhose.
egg. Yeah.
So what am I gonna do? So I worked for a retailer at the time. I said, yeah, I'll call the hosiery department. I said, well, I have a little problem. I need to present legs pantyhose. So they gave me this mannequin that had a woman's torso with her legs like this, and I had to walk to school with this
The legs
pantyhose
are a
thing.
V shape up in the
Yeah, I
air.
said, what are you walking around with? Well, I got to do a presentation. It was like so embarrassing to talk about the construction of pantyhose and what they did, but it really got more into marketing. It was kind of funny, but I think it's also an opportunity to illustrate your creativity and
Hmm.
understand that things do change. The marketing of legs, they probably don't do that anymore, but that was a thing, a Polaroid camera. That
Yeah.
was a thing. They don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So you have to, in terms of product or person, as I said initially, reinvent yourself into something the world really wants.
That's right.
Um, yeah, we don't have the things we had 10, 15 years ago. We didn't have these little cell phones. They were big ones. And then
Yeah.
before that, the phones were attached to the wall. You couldn't go up
Mhm.
and talk to somebody.
Mm.
So that's the result of people, intelligent people, who've come up with ideas, tested things, weren't afraid to give up, you know, wanted to be successful. And most of all, learn from their mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. It really is. But the real question is, excuse me, is what did I learn from this? What did this teach me? How can I pass it on to somebody else? And how can I be
Absolutely.
better and stronger? And it's okay, all the careers that you're in. Um, I'll do it real quickly. I went to, graduated, my first job was an industrial engineer. I did that. Then after that, I got into payroll, which had nothing to do about it. I worked my way up, way, way, way to the top. And then after that, I got into consulting, and then I got into, um, different types of consulting and problem solving. And then I got into this organization, American Payroll Association, where I was able also to utilize my skills that I couldn't do in the company. I
Mm.
couldn't, but it gave me an opportunity to find a purpose of saying, look, I have these writing skills, I have public speaking skills. I can, I can do this. I can make people laugh. Um, I can do a lot of problem solving. Those opportunities, and I think when we broaden our scope, when we look at it, you don't necessarily have to get your highs by working for a company. You can go outside the company and be who you want to be and be creative and be
Mm.
positive.
Mhm.
And and I've been working for myself for a lot of years because I didn't want anybody working in companies to define what my next step was. I did not want them to tell me or if I should get promoted or how much money I should make. I'm the one that should decide it.
Mm.
And and I did. And like you said, I love what I'm doing. I love helping people. I love doing podcasts. I love uh, just meeting some great people like you. And that's what means the most to me.
Nice. I love that. All right, last question.
Okay.
I want you to imagine you have the opportunity to go back and talk to that younger Howard.
Hmm.
What advice would you give him, or what insights do you think he could share with you?
I think if I talked to the younger Howard, I would say, don't be afraid to take a risk.
Mhm.
Um, get out of your comfort zone. Look at your skills. Don't believe in yourself. There's a couple of songs I always refer to. One from How to Succeed in Business Without Trying, and the song is "I Believe in You."
Mm.
It's somebody that started. So I I think I needed time to build my self-esteem, to
Mhm.
believe in myself, to really say I can do that. The other song that I love is from Wicked, Defying Gravity.
Mm,
And
mm,
basically, nothing should bring you down. Nothing. And I think you have to, when you have a down day, which I've had many of those, you have to kind of look up and say, tomorrow will be better. So I think your self-belief, believing in yourself, uh, doing what you really like to do, that's your call. But never stop believing in yourself, never. And or don't let anybody tell you. The last quote is the Eleanor Roosevelt quote. It said, "Nobody can make you inferior and feel inferior without your approval." I
indeed.
mean, I said it exactly, but if somebody says you're no good, you don't have to accept that. You
That's
don't
right.
have to accept it. So, belief, direction, uh, foresight. Um, if you fall, pick yourself up, and you'll succeed and be happy. I think the maybe final thing. Just find happiness, try to laugh at things, try to make other people laugh, you know, walk with your head up, not down.
Love it. That's good advice. Thank you, Howard.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. So, listeners, if you've enjoyed some of these nuggets of how to get from where you are to where you'd like to be and how to help your kids move forward, please like the show, share it with your friends. You might have someone who's got a college student coming up and they're going to want to look at how do we get that education, regardless of where you think you are. Howard can help you figure out options and ideas so that you can get where you want to be. And just like and share and then subscribe to the show so that you can catch it every week. Until next time, enjoy living into your best life and have fun with the journey.